Okay, Annabel, let's look at the 2D book now as well. Um, Very glad to be able to see this side of what you're doing. The mind map sort of is a little bit washed out. I think you on this image, it'd be good to have some other kind of visual cues as to how you're thinking, and digging deep in that question of purpose. The work that you do, in the research you do, needs to be have something purposeful about it, and so the asking questions right at the start can frequently set you on the right ground in that respect. So it could well be that this is something that has to be revisited. Let's see how it progresses. You're clearly someone who is happy to explore and experiment visually, and I think what I do is, in part, take a cue from that. You can allow the visual exploration to inform the conceptual as well as the other way around. And so when I look at the first few pages and I see this sort of interesting repetitive pattern you have here, and start to think where it's derived from, this kind of strange organization of body parts, it makes me start to think of symbols and signs, possibly even Egyptian symbols and signs, but numerous um, possibilities for exploring what this sort of visual layout can mean. Again, a good breadth of in a good range of different media, and exploring different processes. It's kind of touching on it. I think that there's a lot more mileage here. To me, it feels like these are the beginnings of work that need to be explored visually as much as sort of writing about it and conceptualizing it. With a number of these pieces, for example, where might that go next if you were going to develop it in terms of the choice of media, the comparison between the pages, even thinking about which you prefer, which you feel work better, could be a way into seeing where your work could go visually and conceptually. So we have a look at Paul Klee, and the beginnings of distortion is starting to take shape, and kind of covering up or negating or drawing attention to certain features by obscuring them, and questions emerging over whether there's a sort of display thing going on, or an exploration, or a I'm kind of curious as to where this will go, and again, some really strong sense of actually kind of obliterating parts of the face and distorting parts of the face, and you know, in the writing, you sort of touch upon this idea of what this could mean and where it could go. But I feel like something a little bit more speculative, something a little bit more open ended, rather than kind of analysis, perhaps some sort of spontaneous ideas as to where this could go next, and perhaps why you've chosen it. And I think some of the answers to those things are going to lie in the formal choices you've made, as much as the conceptualizing and writing that you've done. Um, yeah, so again, on these pages, perhaps it would be a good plan to, in some way, indicate how these different thoughts are connected. We've got some annotation, but the kind of the realism versus distortion kind of analysis, and asking that question, well, what if, what would happen if you started to rearrange parts of the face or obscure parts of the face. It feels like this needs to sort of be more built in as a kind of core concept that you're working on. Um, Experimenting with oil pastels, well, I'd have a whole bunch more in there. This to me feels like it's just very much touching upon it. Thinking about why use them. I think you need to be exploring the colour, because it's quite monochrome up to this point. And so questions around the use of colour and the use of this particular medium and how meaning could be drawn from the experience of using the medium is yeah, needs to happen. I think down here it could kind of develop into a mind map or a reflection on why what the kind of outcomes were from having this little foray into oil pastels. And we jump into Jenny Savile now, and this Karen Griffith person, and I'm thinking there's kind of unfinished business here. We've Jenny Savile is quite a long way from, although it's distortion and obscuring to some point, it's quite a long way from where you started back here, where it's really quite absolute in its obliteration of the face. It's really quite detached, collage-like even. You could draw connections to the Hannah Hott. And the possibilities here could take you somewhere other than towards Jenny Savile, I believe. I think the thing to do here is to take a bit of a risk and to start moving, start building on those early experiments. Jenny Savile, fascinating artist, and yes, definitely have a look. But you've got some strong things going early on, so I wouldn't get kind of, I wouldn't overlook them. So a little bit more experimentation going on here, and sort of sections of the face, and you can't quite see who it is. I think it would be interesting at this point to look at Gerhard Richter, Richter, because there's a interesting balance between realism and obscuring and abstraction that kind of comes in here a little bit. Something being very disparate. This is very different from where Jenny Savile is going. Something very broken up. So it feels like early days then in this book, and I think it's time to take a look at what you've done so far and really try to identify the potential of some of the early ideas so that the ideas can now be built upon and developed